Legend says Dalpro will feature this if he loves his fans. Hey guys, if you write a nice comment under the latest video you get the chance to be shown in the next video. Doctors of Reddit, what are some of your anti-vax parent stories? I had a kid come in that was super sick, 3 years old, and in septic shock. He had the flu and another compounded viral infection. I want to say pertussis. Heart rate was close to 200, respiratory rate in the 50s, blood pressure in the 70s. Kid was so effing dry that we could barely get fourths into him, and I almost had to drill an IO. We dumped a ton of fluids into him, started him on vasopressors, and transferred him to the local children's hospital. I had asked the mom if he was vaccinated, and she said no, vaccines have really bad side effects. They'll make you sick. I explained to her that not getting the vaccines had made her kid 10 times sicker than he ever would have been from any mild vaccine reaction. She told me I was effing stupid and that I obviously have no clue what I'm talking, and that's the reason her kid was getting transferred. She also told me that recommending she vaccinate her kids was racist. When I was a medical student, I had a 5-year-old patient who looked and acted like a 2-year-old. Failure to thrive. His mother was super weird. She shaved the sides of his head, somehow like a marine cut, but kept his back hair long. She refused to vaccinate him or even feed him certain foods. Her sister and her husband were trying to get custody of the child because his mother was weird and didn't take care of him properly. I suspect she was paranoid. She would literally fight and call you names if you attempt to suggest to put the kid on a proper hospital diet. She wanted to inspect the food first and make sure he eats only certain things. Long story short, the attending calling county and they took the child away from her. My stepmom is a pediatrician at a major hospital here in Italy. She told me the worst thing she saw was her anti-vaxx mom wailing and screaming after her 12-year-old son died of meningitis. The mother didn't let the son get the meningitis vaccine. Stepmom told me as soon as she walked in the room, after getting called for an emergency, all the son's limbs had gone necrotic and he was bleeding from practically every hole in his body, including his eyes, since his blood couldn't congeal anymore and was like oil leaking all over. She told me she felt so iced at the mom when she received the information that the mom hadn't vaccinated her son at all and this was all preventable. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a veterinary technician. I've had someone ask me if vaccines are going to give their dog autism. Went to a chiropractor one time to fix some lower back pain. They had posters all over about how harmful vaccines are and that having your back adjusted regularly, even as an infant, could help fight off those kinds of diseases. I asked the receptionist if they actually believed that, and she gave me a 10-minute lecture trying to justify it. I just looked and said, remove me from the patient list because that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Not a medical doctor, but I'm a university professor of biological sciences. I was teaching a course this semester that covers how to appropriately conduct research in a variety of ways, as well as how to perform personal, not publication-worthy, research. I remember hearing one of my students say that they were anti-vax at the beginning of the semester. Didn't really bother me because I realized that they were also part of one of my courses where I just so happened to have a lecture planned to analyze Wakefield's MMR autism paper, find points of major error/bias, determine the severity of the errors, how to fix them, and discuss his methodologies and results, while being compared to the dozens of studies released after his that utterly destroyed his paper. After that lecture, I never saw the student again. Unfortunately, this taught me that when you deal with this group of people, there isn't really a way of convincing them otherwise. They have been brainwashed, and they like their confirmation caves. I want to hear pro-vax stories. For instance, a parent came in, and I told them their child needed an MMR vaccine. The parent agreed, so I gave the child the shot. The child lived a healthy life, and didn't get autism. I'm not a doctor, but I have a story that I'm pretty sure that fits here. We had neighbors that have become lifelong family friends. They have a daughter the same age as my sister, and she got diagnosed with autism shortly after getting her MMR. A couple months after her diagnosis, the paper came out saying vaccines caused autism, and the mom believed it. It was new information. No one really was sure what to believe. Anyway, fast forward 4 years and the mom is pregnant again. She nosed getting her new baby vaccinated with the MMR. She did, because, in her words, I'd rather have another autistic child than one in the ICU. The new baby is completely typical, and she now doesn't believe in the anti-vax it. My point is, at even the height of the autism being caused by vaccine scare, she was smart enough to get her kids vaccinated, and I will never understand why people don't protect their kids as well as herd immunity. While discussing vaccines with the mom one time and bringing up my experience working with the immunocompromised population, she said, I don't care if someone else's kid has cancer. That's their problem, not mine. And that right there is a huge part of the problem: selfishness. I vaccinate my children not only for their own health, but for the health of others. This experience isn't necessarily the worst, but mainly just sad. I had a 1-year-old infant in the NICU with high B meningitis, which is a vaccine preventable illness. I didn't actually have the heart, or felt there was any reason in the moment, to explain to the parents that what was happening to their child was fully preventable. Long story short, their child came into the emergency room, quite febrile and non-responsive. The whole workup was done, and he was diagnosed with high B meningitis and sepsis, and was admitted to the NICU. Unfortunately, he was already fairly advanced into the course of his illness, and went on to develop multiple awful complications. Despite being started on the kitchen sink's worth of antibiotics, he developed multiple brain impediments, large collection of pus and bacteria that fill the skull, requiring multiple drains to be drilled into their skull to relieve pressure, or else the brain would have been compressed. To make things worse, the kid incurred multiple ischemic strokes, dead brain, and also developed hydrocephalus. The brain has its own circulatory system which can get clogged with pus/bacteria, causing fluid to build up and exerting pressure on the brain. Against all odds, this tiny baby survived the ordeal. You can have your own ethical debate over whether a child that neurologically compromised should have lived, since they will be so profoundly disabled that they will likely require full-time nursing care and may only live a few more years before dying of pneumonia, but that was the situation. Not a doctor, but was previously in a position where I hired RNs. One interview concluded shortly after learning that this registered nurse I was speaking with was wholeheartedly against vaccinations and went on to paint pretty much all of Western medicine as hocus pocus. I think she takes the laughter is the best medicine phrase literal. I just wanted to say, why the F did you go to school for this profession? And did you not learn a damn thing? Not a doctor, but worked in a pediatric ed for many years. Had a young boy come in, don't remember exactly how old, maybe 8 or 9. Comes in obtunded and stiff as a board. We take home to the resuscitation room and do all the full workup stuff including a spinal tap. It was work to try to position him because he was so stiff. I'm assisting with the tap. The fellow was able to get into the intervertebral space and a milky fluid literally shoots out of the needle and onto her chest. She hooked up the manometer to measure the pressure and the fluid climbed all the way to the top and out, even with the extension added to it. I had never seen that before in hundreds of taps. I don't remember pressure, but as you can imagine it was astronomically high. We got the kid as stable as we could and transferred him to the PICU. He ended up living, but lost 3 of his extremities due to sepsis, as well as severe cognitive impairment as a result of the high pressures. Cultures showed H-flu meningitis, which is the most common form of meningitis. He was never vaccinated. The Hib vaccine is 95% effective in preventing meningitis. It was sobering to watch the parents realize their decision to withhold the vaccine has unimaginably altered the course of their lives and the life of their child. I work at a clinic that doesn't treat kids, work-related illnesses and injuries, and I never really treated kids, so not many. One woman asked for my reassurance that she was doing the right not vaccinating her kids because other doctors haven't been happy about that. I told her that she would have to meet with 100 or more doctors to find one that agrees with her. She rolled her eyes and condescendingly said, I guess you're all bought by Big Pharma then. I called her a reffing idiot and told her to go to another doctor next time.